He's Clay Travis. OutkickTheCoverage.com is now part of FoxSports.com. You can also hear him on 104.5 The Zone in Nashville, our home away from home in Nashville. Love the folks there. Clay joining us now. How big are the SEC media days, Clay, for those on the outside looking in?
As big or bigger than the Super Bowl, Dan. And I know people hear that and they think there's no way on earth that's possible. It is. There are 1,200 credentialed media members at the SEC. Radio Row, you guys should come down and do it sometime. I mean, it's a little bit like Las Vegas meets Birmingham, which sounds ridiculous, but I'm telling you that's what it's like. It extends well out into the mall. This hotel is connected to a big mall galleria there in Birmingham. And, I mean, it's just insane. Fans show up. This is the craziest thing about it. Fans show up and wait for the coaches to walk past and go up an escalator to go talk to the media. And they'll do chants in the lobby. I mean, you know, you wonder where all these Alabama fans do for a living, and then you realize, well, they're Alabama fans. They probably don't have jobs, but it's still kind of impressive that they're showing up at noon on a random Thursday to come hang out and watch Nick Saban walk by like he's the Pope.
Okay, but is this like boy band crazy? When
it is exactly like boy band crazy. I mean, to the extent that Nick Saban, I believe, is 61 years old. He doesn't look it, but he's 61 years old. Every time he moves and walks by, you know, I went to college in D.C., and when people come to Washington, D.C. and visit, the idea that you might catch a glimpse of the president, you're willing to, like, adult men and women are willing to choke each other out over the possibility that they might see the motorcade go by and catch a glimpse of Barack Obama's hand or whoever the president was at the time. That is what it's like for Alabama fans to see Nick Saban in person in Alabama. I mean, they will literally fight, scrape, claw, whatever they have to do to see Nick Saban for a fraction of a second. He's that big in Alabama.
Our poll question, Johnny Manziel is irresponsible or living life the way we'd all like to live?
It's a great poll question. Congrats to the Danettes there for that one. I would go with the way I would like to live, especially if you factor in when you were 19 or 20 years old. I mean, it's not like the guy is 40 or 35 or, you know, trying to hang on to something his college days, way past the time when he's left college, when he's got kids, family, and everything else. He's 19 or 20. I mean, I don't know anybody who wouldn't want to be living Johnny Manziel's life. And I hope I never become this guy, but it seems to me that a lot of the people who criticize him forget what they were like when they were 19 or 20 years old. This social media era changes everything. If everything I'd done when I was 19 or 20 went public, if I'd had 400,000 Twitter followers,
yeah.
I don't know that the perception would have been that strong because I would have just been a college kid who didn't give a damn what anybody else thought because I was having such a great time.
I understand what it was like and you know, when you're 19 or 20 and having kids of that age, but you also have to almost protect him from himself at times. That would be my big concern with this, that he's under a spotlight in the SEC, Heisman Trophy winner. And you don't have to take every beer that's given to you or be in every photo that, you know, somebody wants to snap. And then you have what happened at the Manning camp. What's the real story with what happened at the Manning camp?
Yeah, I mean, I think he went out, partied, based on people that I talked to who were there, and did not show up on time for the morning training sessions for the kids who were campers there. Blew it off. I think that there's probably a lot of 19 or 20-year-olds who have been in that position before. You go out. I think the tough thing about the Manning Passing Academy, and there were pictures of the Mannings out and all the other quarterbacks, and I talked to a lot of guys who've been there before. It's a big social event. I mean, it's an opportunity if you're a quarterback, which is a unique position, to kind of get to know the other guys who play your position, to get to hang out with those guys, it's a fraternity of sorts. And so I think the tough thing is balancing the social aspects and the fun aspects with this is still a camp relationship of that event. And I think for Johnny Manziel, the social won out. He didn't take it that seriously because it's an off-season camp. And I think, he's been embarrassed by the attention that it's gotten. But he's a lot like a lot of 19 and 20-year-old kids probably are right now listening to your show across the country. He's had an obligation in the morning, and he's been out too late the night before and thought, you know what, I'm turning the alarm off. I'm going to keep sleeping. I'll just blow it off.
Will he talk at Media Day tomorrow?
He will talk on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday early morning. Hopefully they'll keep him out of the bars on Tuesday night because he talks at 8:30 Central, I believe. He talks to the media for the first time, and he's going to be a major rock star there too.
Okay,
I was there 4 years ago with Tebow.
Let's say you got one question. What do you ask Manziel?
That's a great question. Well, I think everybody has to lead with the Manning Passing Academy situation right now. I think that's the huge story. I mean, if it's leading all the news, it obviously involves the Manning family, which is royalty. The idea that Archie may have been the guy who said, you know what, why don't you just go on home? You've not taken this seriously enough. That's a big story. I think it has to be the lead question there. I think the next one that you just hinted at earlier is, what's it like in this modern media era? And I wrote about this yesterday, but the idea that in 2013, every single person out at a bar, restaurant, social, public event that you go to is more wired and more able to create a story through social media with Twitter and Facebook than the most plugged-in professional reporter would have been able to do in 2008. I mean, I just don't think most people have gotten their hands gripped around the idea of how quickly we've evolved as a sports media and media culture in general. I mean, when that airplane went down recently, we didn't hear the news from CNN. There were people tweeting who had just landed on that plane. It's a completely different world, and I think, can you imagine Joe Namath back in that day? I mean, are you telling me he didn't get into some craziness? We don't know, but he certainly did.
Well, it's like Brett Favre. I mean, we could go down the roster here of guys. If you had cell phones, you had Twitter accounts, and you were almost chronicling this as we went on, second by second or minute by minute. But, yeah, I heard the same thing, that it was Archie who put the hammer down on Johnny Manziel and just said, you know what, that's not who we are and what we stand for, and you should just go home. And then Manning sort of put a bow on it and said, we wish him well and hope he comes back next year.
Yeah, and that may be Archie being old school, you know. I mean, whereas the Mannings, I thought the Peyton Manning, who, by the way, is maybe the classiest guy on earth. I mean, has he ever thrown anybody really under the bus for anything? Pointing out that Eli, as a 20-year-old, wasn't necessarily the most reliable guy, and he's gone on to win a couple of Super Bowls. So obviously, you can bounce back from missing training camp sessions in the morning. But yeah, the Archie connection, the Manning family connection, you guys can debate this. I mean, how many teams are going to be interested in drafting Johnny Manziel after this year because he's going to come out?
Yeah.
You know, how many teams are going to take a quarterback early? 8, 10? Will any of those teams be concerned about his off the field, including this incident where they take him off the board? They're looking for reasons not to draft you. I would hope it's not the case, but it could be.
Well, we're going to look at other comparisons as far as size. So Russell Wilson and Drew Brees, but he's not Russell Wilson and he's not Drew Brees. Completely different type of quarterback. So the only reason why I'm going to look at him and say, is he a first-round pick, which I don't think he is that he will create excitement. He's something different. We're into this. My quarterback can stretch the defense a little bit. Now, does he have an arm that's strong enough to be able to keep a defense honest? But I think they'll look at him as a football player. But I do think that there's added attention here, Clay, with behavioral problems. The NFL has to be aware of all of that. And I think so that has to factor in just a little bit. I think it'll come down to just football with Johnny Manziel. I don't think it'll be off the field stuff.
I'll tell you this, and you guys will be talking about it. Everybody will be talking about it. That Alabama game on September 14th, which right now is the biggest college football game of the season, is going to be in Texas A&M. It's going to be a referendum on Johnny Manziel's offseason. And I don't necessarily think that's fair because I believe Nick Saban's probably watched hundreds of hours. He was not very happy with what Manziel and that Kevin Sumlin offense was able to do against his vaunted defense. But I think a lot of people, if A&M comes out and doesn't play well and loses that game, immediately the response is going to be, well, this guy couldn't handle the attention. He couldn't handle the pressure. I know you guys have the entourage guys on quite a bit. There's the possibility, and I made this analogy in a column the other day, that the Alabama game on September 14th is Johnny Manziel's Medellin. You know, right after he comes out, he's Vinny Chase, everything's on a roll, and then he overreaches and he makes Medellin. That could be the Medellin of the Johnny Manziel era. Go ahead and toss that out there. You guys can discuss with Turtle next time he's on.
All right, before I let you go, finish the sentence. Johnny Manziel beats Alabama.
If they can replace a lot of offensive talent. Nobody's talking about that. And if they can score 28 or more points. If they can't, they're going to lose.
Well, the reaction, though, if he beats Alabama.
Okay, yeah.
Like he can win his way out of this.
Yeah, no, 100%. If he beats Alabama, nobody is – that's the thing. Nobody's going to talk about the offseason at all because if you look at A&M's schedule, they have 4 out-of-conference games they can't lose. Alabama, by far, the toughest game. They'll go on the road at LSU, and Ole Miss is kind of a sneaky tough game for them on the road with what Hugh Freeze is doing there. But they're going to go 11-1 or better, probably win the SEC West and play in Atlanta for a trip to the national title game if they beat Alabama on September 14th. So I think if Texas A&M beats Alabama, they'll play for the national title.
Good stuff, Clay, as always. Thanks for stirring it up.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Clay Travis, The Zone in Nashville. Our good friends down there, 104.5 The Zone. Also, OutkickTheCoverage.com, joining Fox Sports. Great website there.